Hello and welcome to a new One Piece TCG video. So we've got two more fully revealed cards. That means cards with abilities and numbers attached to them and that kind of thing. We do get daily card reveals, but a lot of those are just art only cards where they just only show us the artwork of the cards and nothing else. And for now I'm not particularly interested in talking about those. Maybe I'll go over like a speed round talking about all of them later. But right now, the most exciting thing is talking about the ability cards. Before I go into this, I will say, so recently I've been doing 2 cards per video, so I just wait until 2 new cards have been revealed, and then make a video talking about them. That's because the game is so new that there's a lot to talk about, even with the really vanilla starter deck cards. Maybe at a future date I may, cover more cards per video, but for now 2 per video seems correct for me, so that's why I've been doing it this way. Just doing 1 card per video seems a bit overkill though, at least for me anyway. Maybe that's something I can do YouTube shorts on at a later date or something, I don't know. But without further ado, let's get into the first card. So if it'll open, there we go. So we got Sanji and Queen, and let's talk about Sanji first since he's a Straw Hat. Makes sense. So that's another thing too, is we've been getting Straw Hat and Animal Kingdom Pirates, so red and purple cards for the reveals, and no green or blue, which are Worst Generation and 7 Warlords, because those are the 4 starter decks. But we haven't been getting any cards from those 2 decks, and so it seems like they're prioritizing these 2 decks for now. Maybe in the lead up to the live stream event that's happening on the 31st of May. And then maybe after that we'll get the cards from the other 2 starter decks. I don't know, we'll see. But I just thought that would be important to note because people are probably wondering where are those cards, you know? Those characters are also very popular. So anyway, without further ado, let's get into this first card. So we've got Sanji here. Important to note, by the way, so the Zoro card said Roanoa Zoro. This one just says Sanji. It doesn't say Vinsmoke Sanji. I imagine this is because in the manga, Sanji himself does not like being referred to as a Vinsmoke. He just likes being called Sanji. So that's my theory as to why that's like that. He's a cost 2, and he has 4,000 power. In my previous video, someone mentioned that I've been neglecting to point out the attack type of cards, which is this icon next to the power. This is a strike card. The yellow one means strike. I hadn't been pointing it out because it wasn't really relevant yet, but it's still, you know, the comment had a good point. I should kind of try to get into the rhythm of pointing it out. Sometimes I'll forget, that's just going to happen. So what does strike mean? Well, cards can have different ability or power types, and that one's strike. There's others like King who has special and that kind of thing. So 2 theories. One is that it either ties into card abilities, where a card ability can be you can do this if someone does, if a card does a strike attack, or it can mean a rock paper scissors type thing where certain power types do more damage against others, if you know what I mean, like a Pokemon type weakness type thing. I don't know. Maybe Digimon or Dragon Ball has a similar system. I don't know. I'm not very familiar with those games. But, you know, it's worth pointing out. And plus, even if other games have similar mechanics, this is still a new card game, so there's every chance it will have a different, mechanic to those anyway, even if it seems similar on the surface. So we just gotta wait to find out more detail about that. So anyway, this card is very simple. Dawn 2, this character gains Rush. So what does this mean? This means, you know, you pay your 2 costs, so you tap 2 Dawn cards on the field to play Sanji from your hand to the field. Fairly simple. And once you do, you can add 2 Dawn cards to him to gain Rush. What does Rush mean? Rush means you can attack on the turn it was summoned. This doesn't work on your first turn, nor that it would, because if you were going first on your first turn, you would only have access to 1 Dawn anyway. But on your first turn, you can never attack, regardless of if cards have Rush. But also, you know, you need to attach 2 extra Dawns as well. So basically this means if you're going second, then your ideal play is to get this out on your second turn, because if you're going second, then on your second turn you will have access to 4 Dawns. So you tap 2 of them to send Sanji out, and then attach 2 of them to Sanji. Remember, you cannot attach Dons that have been rested unless, and this is where we finally start getting a look at some combos throughout this game. If you remember, there is a cost to Brook card who has the ability that you may attach one unrested Don card, or one rested Don card to a character card in the field. So if you're going second, on your first turn you have access to 2 Dons, you use that to get Brook out, and then on your second turn, you can get Sanji out, and then you can actually save resources by using Brook's ability to attach one of the rested Dons instead of an unrested one, which means you have access to 1 more Don for that turn. Now, this is actually quite a good card because obviously, yes, Rush is really good, it means you get to attack faster, but also just 2 cost for 4k damage is really good anyway. Like, obviously we don't know for certain, like, how things level out. And also remember, if he gets Rush, which means he has 2 Dons, that means he gets, 2,000 extra power, which means he'll actually be swinging for 6k. And remember, the average leader card is 5k. So if you get him out, attach the 2 Don cards, give him Rush, you can take out a leader. Which is really good, you can deal damage, that's fast. Which I really like, by the way. Sanji's a fast character, so I think it fits with, like, his playstyle. But yeah, no, I think even if you don't use the Rush, 2 cost for 4k to defend with on, like, your first turn or whatever is still not that bad either. So I think this is a really solid card. So now let's go on to Queen. So Queen has 5 cost, 6k damage, and once again, strike attack. Strike seems to be the most common one I've seen. So one thing that this text doesn't say, but this does say here, is it has an additional ability, and that's Blocker. Blocker just means when this card's on the field, you may, and your opponent is attempting to attack any of your cards in the field, you may tap him, so turn him sideways to divert the attack to him instead. So you can use this to kind of defend with. Blocker is a very vanilla ability that a lot of cards are going to have, but the game is so new that I may as well explain it anyway for anyone who isn't caught up. So that's why I didn't have it written here, it's just because it's such a vanilla effect that a lot of cards are going to have. So if you see this like orange stripe on the card here, that's just what that means. So on play, Don -1, draw 2 cards, then discard 1 card from your hand. Yep. So that's a really interesting ability, right? Because it gives you draw power, right? So this is an expensive card. This is 5 cost, which means you're going to be using it closer to the middle of a game, maybe the end of a game. But it does help you out of a brick, which is really good. Obviously, bricking is when you just don't have any useful cards in your hand, and so you can just discard one of those useless cards to get 2 more potentially useful cards. Also, I don't think we've seen this yet, but in various different card games, there can be cards that benefit from being discarded. There can be like card abilities or like, when this card is sent to trash, activate this ability, and that kind of thing. So we don't know yet, we need to see more cards to find out thoroughly, but there may be other cards in the deck that actually benefit from being discarded, so it's kind of a win-win. You're drawing and you're activating an additional ability. So that's pretty cool. Obviously we don't know for certain if that's something that you can benefit from quite yet, but it is still cool nonetheless. And also, Queen has a counter plus 1000. That's the thing on the side of the card here. Now, what this is if your opponent is attacking you, like your leader card for example, or one of your character cards, then you can discard this card from your hand to have the card that's being attacked gain 1000 extra power. So in my tutorial video, I say you don't need to pay any kind of cost to do this. And people were like, how do you know? And I was like, it's just kind of a guess, because discarding it from your hand is a cost in and of itself, because it means you won't be able to play it on your next turn. And it turns out I was right. Basically, we got further clarification saying that you do not need to pay a cost to use a counter from your hand. At least a character card anyway. If you're countering with an event card, you do need to pay a cost, but if it's with a character card like this, you can just, Vanguard rules go, basically, where you just discard it from your hand to add the counter power to the card that's being attacked, which is really good. Again, this makes Queen very, very versatile. Like, I wouldn't say there's anything special in terms of his power or anything. Like, he doesn't have any abilities that, like, give him additional power. And there's not really much of a reason to give him any dons. You'd probably prioritize giving dons to other character cards or leader cards. Although the 6k is still enough to swing at a leader anyway. So, you know, the 6k is enough. For 5 cost, it's quite a lot. 5 cost does seem to be one of the more expensive cards we've seen. But also, it does give you a lot that you can do. Like, having the blocker is really good, especially a 6k blocker. So if your opponent, for whatever reason, swings with a 5k, or even just a 6k, you can block and actually have their attack fail. So that's something that they need to think around, meaning they have to spend more dons than they want to, because they have to, like, factor in the fact that you might block. So that's really good too. You're kind of controlling your opponent in that way. Yeah, but also what I really like too is that whilst it may be an expensive card to use cost-wise, you don't have to use it. You can just counter. Now, what's interesting to note is that this is a counter plus 1000. There are cards in the Straw Hat deck, I believe Chopper and Brook, although I may be wrong, who have 2000 counter instead of 1000. So initially I was wondering if every card that had counter was going to have the same amount for its counter. It turns out, no, there can be varied amounts. So I'm looking forward to seeing, like, what, like, card ends up getting, like, a stupidly high counter, you know? And now we'll have to, like, plan a way around, ways around that, huh? So that's really interesting, too. The only other thing I really want to mention for Queen is the Don -1. So Don -1 means when you play this card, to activate its ability, you take one Don card from your cost area and put it back into the Don deck. And so this is something we've seen a lot in this purple deck already, is removing Don cards basically from your field state, which can slow down a game considerably. Like, 2 card draw is really good, but if you don't have Dons to, you know, to pay a cost to activate those cards, that might be pretty difficult. Especially when Kaido has, like, a, cost 7 ability as your leader, and so you're going to need Don cards on the field to use Kaido. So I'm going to go ahead and assume there's gotta be a card in this deck that allows you to get Don cards out faster than your opponent will be able to, because otherwise continuously using cards like Queen and King to send Don cards back into the Don deck are just going to prevent you from using Kaido, and that's going to be a problem because you want your leader card to be good, right? If your leader card has a useless ability that you can't activate, then that's going to be tough for you. So I'm really hoping that this deck has, like, a trick up its sleeves in regards to accelerating the amount of Dons, but I guess we'll see. Again, it's difficult to predict what the balancing of the game is going to be like when we have so few cards. So yeah, that is the 2 new cards that we got revealed recently, and those are my thoughts. Let me know what you think about these cards, if there's anything you agree with, disagree with, or maybe even ways to comboing these cards with cards that have already been revealed. That would be cool too. If you like this video, be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel to see more. Remember, for every statement, there's always an asterisk, and I will see you later with more One Piece card reveals. See ya!